Alright, hello guys, and welcome to Blind Men. This is a game by Maneater Games. They were kind enough to send me a copy of their game. It's available on itch.io, you can find it on the link in the description. And it's about a supervillain, which I'm guessing is this guy, and a spy who's trying to be James Bond, and another spy who looks like Cullen Rutherford from Dragon Age. I'm sorry, that's Cullen Rutherford. Feathers, slick back hair, scar on the lip. That's Cullen. Good job, guys. I like you guys already. I totally approve. Let's begin, shall we? Let's check the preferences first. Let's stick with window mode, holy shit. Skip messages, read messages, great. Anyway, let's start. My name's Keegan. Hold on, what's a good voice? When I was 7, I was sent to live with my uncle. I had just lost my parents to a car accident, the same one that left the right side of my face You call that disfigured? And that's not your left, bitch. Great. You know, ambidextrous sprites, you know how it is. But, come on. I expected... Well, not really. I didn't expect more detail. It's more like I was hoping you guys at least made contingencies for that because, well... Yeah, anyway. He did his best to make me feel welcome, but it wasn't enough. Bullied by my peers and ignored by people that were supposed to help me, I didn't fit in anywhere, and I spent most of my childhood thinking that it was somehow my fault. One day, after I came home crying, my uncle pulled me aside and said to me, "People are fools, Keegan, blinded by their own stupidity. They seek to destroy what they don't understand. But people like you and me were different, were better. Never forget that." At that moment, it all became clear. I finally understood what I had to do. I'd follow my uncle's footsteps, and I'd show them. So, what do you think? I'm only missing the essay section of the application. I don't know why the League even asks for one. There's nothing particularly evil about good grammar. I laughed nervously at my own bad attempt of making a joke. The League of Evil is the highest authority when it comes to criminal activity around the world. They can make or destroy a supervillain's career with a single word, and even those that don't answer to them know better than to oppose them. Membership is for life, and vacancies are rare and far in between. Even getting the opportunity to apply is difficult enough. I'm perfectly confident in my ability to deliver a flawless application, of course, but one can never be too sure. Which is exactly how I ended up asking one of my uncle's henchmen for his opinion on my application. What? Hi, you adorable little shit. Who are you? It's about passion. Common criminals are a dime a dozen, but being a supervillain requires true dedication. He claps his hands together in excitement. Great. He's almost as enthusiastic as I am about the idea of me getting to join the League, which makes the fact that I have no idea of what his name is rather embarrassing. It's not that I don't care, it's just that after a while henchmen just sort of blend in together. During training, we were shown the video of the boss's speech at the Allied Nations. It was wonderful. Half the room was in tears by the end of it. It's the one about how powerful countries abuse the vote system of the organization to legitimize their actions, isn't it? I've seen it too, it's really good. It's not for nothing that Human Resources makes all the new recruits watch it. In just a few words, you can really feel what the boss is about. Oh shoot, that was the henchman. Really good, it's not what makes him different from all the other supervillains out there? You don't need to worry so much. Write from the heart and you'll do fine. Besides, you're Sphinx's nephew. It runs in the family. He said so himself, didn't he? Don't even start. It's bad enough that people think I only got the opportunity because of him in the first place. The last thing I want is for it to actually be true. Getting into the League by my own merits is the only way I'll ever be taken seriously as a villain by them and by everyone else. Not to mention, he has this weird idea about how spending all my time down here is not good for me. And it's not something recent either. Because intelligence agencies were always looking for my uncle, we never stayed too long in one place. As a result, I was homeschooled for most of my life. but ever since I finished my high school studies 3 years ago, he's been trying to get me to enroll in college, an actual college with other normal people. At first, it was just subtle hints and the occasional comment, which I accepted as his way of showing he cared about my future. However, since the last month, he's been bringing a bunch of pamphlets home. He went as far as to outright tell me that if I was having problems choosing, I should study engineering like he did. Speaking of the boss, why are you planning to tell him? What are you planning to tell him? I've managed to keep the application process a secret for the better part of a year, but it can't remain that way forever. As proud as it makes me that he hasn't found out yet, I'm no fool. I know that luck has played at least some part in it. Besides, I meant it when I told the henchman that my uncle is my biggest inspiration. His approval would mean a lot to me. The next time I see him, I suppose, it will be better if he hears it from me now and not from the league after I get accepted. He hates being left out, and considering what I'm planning, he might just have a stroke. Well, there's your chance. He's heading your way. Our way. What? He was not supposed to come back until tonight. The henchman shrugs. I turn around and see my uncle walking through the door. He has never been a particularly expressive man, but he looks even more serious than usual. Good morning, boss. The henchman salutes him, and my uncle dispenses him with a nod. As he leaves, he silently mouths a good luck in my direction. Traitor! You're early. What? I'm sorry, you don't look too menacing. It's like Luthor? Yeah, this some Bishonen guy with a samurai patch. I'm sorry, that was mean. There was an explosion in the lab. There's toxic material everywhere, and since it will make the cleanup crew take the cleanup crew a few hours to get rid of it, I told everyone to go home for the day. I look down and notice that his clothes are stained with some kind of black substance. Instinctively, I take a step back. He looks down as well, shakes his head, and waves his hand in a dismissive gesture. This is just soil. I was working on some of my old prototypes when I was informed of the explosion. Anything I can help with, boss? No, I want to clear up some space in the storage room. I'll get rid of whatever I can't get in working condition. And how many times do I have to tell you that you don't need to call me that? Sorry, I spent so much time with the henchman, it rubs off after a while. Among other things. Uncle, really? That was years ago and it only happened once. As far as I know, only because he got eaten by a shark before it could happen again. Yes, the time the feeding cage malfunctioned and our perfectly trained sharks decided to have him for lunch instead. What an unfortunate coincidence. What? The corner of his lip. The corner of his lips quirk up in an amused smile. I barely resist the urge to roll my eyes. Oh, there it is. Have you had some time to go through the pamphlets? The entrance exams begin in next month, so you have to submit your papers as soon as possible. I spoke with Madame Mantis. She said that if you're interested in moving to America, she'd be happy to help you with anything you need. Ever since she retired, she has amassed quite a bit of contacts in the Board of Education. They're coming for you, Barbara. In fact, if you get everything else ready before next Friday, she'll personally write you a recommendation letter. I've met her a couple of times. She was a proper villain, the kind of woman that never does things out of the kindness of her heart. Meaning that he either asked her for a favor or she owed him one. Either way, I bet he's only telling me this so I feel pressured into enrolling. I'm glad that you brought it up because I've been meaning to talk to you about that. You have? Does that mean you've chosen a college already then? Not exactly. Not exactly? Keegan, cut to the chase. What if I didn't want to go to college? He stares at me in silence for what feels like an eternity. Finally, he closes his eyes and begins to rub his temples. We've been over this before. You need to do something with your life. You do a good job around here, but you can't keep running around with the henchmen forever. Wait, just hear me out. The reason I don't want to go to college is because I want to become a supervillain, just like you. In fact, I've already contacted the League. They think I've got a lot of potential, Uncle. They are just waiting for me to submit my full application. When did you even have the time to do that? Save it, that's not important. Helping me out and being an actual supervillain are two completely different things. The League's application process is infamously hard for a reason, Keegan. Many people have died trying to impress the Council. Why do you even want to be one? Uncle, please. I've gone through the curriculum of every major college in the world. Several times, actually. See? They've got nothing to teach me. I could go straight to a doctorate for about every field I'm interested in. Why should I waste my time with frivolities when I could be doing something that actually matters. You're the one that always says that people just don't know what's best for themselves. Well, I do. Besides, I've been helping you out practically my whole life. I'm not making an uninformed decision. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure about anything. Have you decided how are you going to call yourself? Do you have a base of operations? What about a plan? How are you going to pay for everything? Do you remember the weapons dealer that sold you the parts you were missing for the death ray? Turns out that he also handles mercenary contracts, and he comes highly recommended in that regard. He said that he would lend me one of his bases and some people if I went over a couple of the blueprints his scientists are working on. I know it's not ideal, but it would only be for a day or two. After I'm accepted in the League, I'll have enough resources to get my own. He crosses his arms. And there's another moment of silence. If you are serious about this, I won't be the one to stop you. But you are going to do this properly. Call the weapons dealer and tell him that you won't be needing his services anymore. You'll use my lair and my men. We'll draft a contract, and if anybody asks, you rented them. Thank you, Uncle. I promise I won't disappoint you. Of course you won't. Now come, tell me more about your plan. A month later. Location, National Museum of Science, Bonn, Germany. Oh, there it is. I pretend to adjust a strand of hair behind my ear, pressing the button in my earpiece to increase the volume. Boss, I'm in the control room. I've taken care of the security recordings. The police won't find anything of use in any of them. The men are all in their posts and ready to go, too. They'll be waiting for your signal. I'll stay here for a little longer to keep an eye on things. Please let me know if you understood. I nod. Alright, see you in the auditorium, boss. As an aspiring supervillain, particularly one hoping to join the League, there are two things to be taken into account when it comes to carrying out plans. Visibility and chance of success. Just like there's no point in doing something so uninspired that barely makes it to the local news, there's no point in getting arrested on national television. Finding balance is key, and that's exactly why I've chosen Bonn's National Museum of Science as my target. It's a beautiful place, and just like its research center hosts many important scientists, its vault is home to a lot of rare and expensive equipment. Despite that, under normal circumstances, there wouldn't be anything particularly worth stealing here. But starting today, the museum will be hosting the Schultz-Holt collection of rare minerals, its main piece being the famous Ingelog diamond. I don't know how to speak of Deutsch very much. I'm sorry, guys. Besides being one of the largest cut precious stones known to man, its purity and chemical composition make it one of the most versatile energy conductors in the world. In addition to the exhibit itself, the museum board has also invited Professor Schultz to give a conference at the end of the inauguration party. Schultz is both a geologist and a political activist, and he's already respected in both fields. To make sure that no other villain interferes, I told both the League and my uncle that I'd be planting bombs in the museum and holding the guests hostage for a ransom. Very few people are willing to risk getting blown up by a first-timer after all. But actually, my real plan is... Oh wow. I'm not sure what to get. Okay, kidnap Professor Schultz or steal the diamond. I don't know which one brings me to Cullen, I'm sorry! Steal the diamond. No. Let's kidnap the professor. As a public figure involved in politics, Schultz's disappearance will be all the news will talk about for as long as he's missing. Kidnappings are hardly my area of expertise, but all things considered, they are pretty straightforward. And it's not like I will have to deal with him for long afterwards in any case. I'm certain that both the Americans and the Russians will be willing to pay a hefty sum to get their hands on him. If I had to guess, I'd say that they'll want to claim they were the ones that saved him, making the other side look incompetent. Or maybe they'll use the opportunity to get rid of him while the blame falls on someone else. It's a great plan if I say so myself. If my nerves don't kill me first, that is. Until Schultz's conference begins, there isn't much for me to do except wait. The only reason I got here at the beginning of the inauguration in the first place was in case their henchmen needed me for something. I should save. I like the save screen. Also, it's typical Renpy thing with OBS, it's not doing much for the screenshots. Unfortunately, that also means that... Yup! Figured. that I've had plenty of time to go over the plan in my head, including all the little details that could go wrong. I hate to admit it, but my uncle was right. Being the mastermind of a plan instead of just another person helping out is a completely different experience. But it doesn't matter. When I join the league, I'll get to tell the story whichever way I want. None of the boring parts, none of the doubt. Everything was perfect on the first try. In the end, I decide to go grab a drink at the bar while I wait. The bar is actually more of a counter in one of the corners of the lobby than its own separate place. It's meant for people who want to get something to drink without having to find a place at one of the tables, or wait for the servers to take their order. As I approach, the first thing I see is a man surrounded by a small group of people, most of them women. I can't get a good look at him from over here, but every once in a while the whole group erupts in laughter. After the third or so time that it happens, the bartender walks over from behind the counter and says something to them. He probably asked them to either lower their volume or leave, since the group began to disperse right afterwards. Now by himself, the man takes a seat next to another blonde man. He leans back on the chair and begins swinging it back and forth. Oh, hi! Oh, hi! Hello there! No wonder he was surrounded by women. He's pretty handsome, and the man next to him isn't too bad himself either. Definitely a much better view than what I had at the lobby. A moment passes, and the man in the tuxedo says something. They exchange a few words, but the expression on the blonde man's face is so unfriendly that they don't really go beyond that. If looks could kill. In any case, I don't have much time to think about it. At that exact moment, the first man turns around and our eyes meet. I look away to see if he'll do the same, but he doesn't. Instead, I can feel him staring at me until I give up and look back. He makes a gesture at the bartender to order another of whatever he's having. Now, with the additional glass in hand, he approaches, stopping right next to me and... Go for it. Go for it, Hermana. Sorry, guys, there's just a drill? It's gonna get noisy a bit. If sparks fly. Now with the additional glass in hand, he approaches, stopping right next to me and leaning against the counter. Hello, Tuxedo Man. Hunter, what? Okay, so the James Bond wannabe is Hunter. Having fun? God, I smell plastic, man. From his body language and his accent, I'd say he's American. Oh, of course, great. I like the dramatic music. Hey, Louie. I wave my hand in a dismissing manner. Not really. Watching the governor try to explain the merits of mineralogy has been the highlight of my evening so far. These things are usually more lively. Well, as lively as events of these sort can get. Dear Louis Henson, it's a shame we're out of touch. Just kidding. I'm just recording, actually. Last time there was this professor from Columbia. What was his name? Anyway, he's convinced that Schultz's methodology is faulty, so he always ends up causing a ruckus whenever they meet. But this time, the committee made sure that the guest list is as inoffensive as possible. He didn't hear it from me, of course. Of course. Drink. He raises the glass towards me. I saw him order it, but I didn't see the bartender pour it, so of course I'm not going to accept it. I shake my head and pick up my own glass, almost empty by now, from the counter. No thank you, I already had one. He shrugs and takes a sip. It's quite good, isn't it? German alcohol's one of the two reasons I'm glad that the Soviets only got to keep the half of the country. And the other one is... Germans. By now it's become clear that he's flirting with me. Whether he's actually doing a good job is a different point altogether. I decide to... Oh my god, do I try to get rid of him? Wait, that sounds devious. Let's get rid of him. I don't have time for loud drunkards, as handsome as they may be. He laughs, puts down one of the glasses, and offers me his free hand. I resist the urge to roll my eyes and instead offer him a tight-lipped smile. The handshake lasts a couple of seconds more than strictly necessary, and instead of simply letting go at the end, he slides his fingers across my palm. I raise an eyebrow, but I don't say anything. He's not even being subtle about the way he's ogling me. Johns, it's a pleasure to meet you. Likewise. Don't take this the wrong way, but you look kind of young for an academic. I'm still an undergrad. I'm hoping for a chance to discuss my thesis with Schultz before I submit it. Asking Schultz for his opinion? That's quite a high bar you've set yourself. What's your thesis about? It's kind of complicated. I'm a smart man. Go ahead. Try me. God, why won't he just leave? In simple terms, I'm researching ways to improve the accuracy of tools used to locate and harvest petroleum deposits. It would make extraction quicker, cheaper, and more environmentally friendly. That's very impressive, even more so for an undergrad. With a grin, he puts a hand on my shoulder and leans closer to me until his face is practically touching mine. His breath feels hot against my ear, and mixed with the faint smell of alcohol coming from him, it's enough to give me goosebumps. Oh, not the good kind, unfortunately. I take a step back to put some distance between us, hoping to throw him off balance. But instead of letting go or falling, he takes a step forward without so much as missing a beat. We actually end up closer than we were before. Maybe we could discuss some of your ideas in private? Are you like this with all the geologists you meet? Only with the ones that looks like they could use the distraction. Should I take that as a yes? Maybe some other time. If I miss Schultz, my thesis supervisor will have my head. Some other time then. He picks up the glass, chugs down the rest of the drink, and gives my arm a squeeze before turning around and walking away. As soon as he's out of my sight, I let out a groan. Ugh! What a piece of work trying to pick up people in a place like this. No wonder he got told to get lost by the man at the bar. Oh yeah, Louis, you should have seen Kobe earlier. He launched an alcohol bottle rocket thingy.
Oh yeah.
What? The last attempt blew the cap off. Just the alcohol and then lit it with a lighter. It was nuts. Where was I? What a piece of work trying to pick up people in a place like this. No wonder he got told to get lost by the man at the bar. What did he even expect me to do? He was lucky it was me. Anyone else would have punched him for his trouble. There's a buzzing sound from one of the nearby speakers and I turn my attention to it. First call, please proceed to take your seats. The conference will begin in 15 minutes. When the announcement is done, I head towards the auditorium. Other than the first two rows, which have been reserved for politicians and the press, the seats aren't numbered. Terribly inconvenient for people that would rather secure a good place without having to enter early or wait too long in the line for it. On the other hand, it's perfect for someone like me that would rather not have a name attached to their tickets. When one of the ushers takes my ticket, I recognize him as one of my uncle's men, just like the henchman said. He directs me towards a free seat at the corner of one of the middle rows. Perfect! Nothing would ruin a dramatic entrance like having to ask people to stand up so I can get to the stage. Once I'm at the seat, it quickly becomes obvious why no one had taken it yet. Sitting next to me is the blonde man from the hall, reading the program with an expression on his face that's just as unfriendly as the one he had back there. Okay, time to flirt with the blonde man. Fuck this. Alright, gang, you better not fail me now. Excuse me, is this seat taken? Cullen, calm your shit. I'm calling you Cullen. He looks like me, shakes his head, and goes back to reading without a single word. Under any other circumstances, I wouldn't care, but come on, he talked to the other man at the bar and I don't get more than a side glance? It's entirely possible for him to just be some regular guy with bad social skills and poor German, but he didn't even attempt to answer in English either. I decide to give my gut feeling a try and leaning closer to him and lowering my voice so that no one else will hear, I begin to speak to him in Russian. I've heard that the Russians have a lot of trouble getting travel permits nowadays, even those who have never been to the Soviet Union. I can't even imagine how hard it must be for actual Soviets to get out of their country. You shady bitch! That gets his attention, enough to put down the program and turn to face me. It looks like he's assessing me and trying to intimidate me at the same time. If I'm completely honest with myself, why am I interested in talking with him? I'm gonna save. Yes, I will save. He insists on ignoring me. It's a matter of pride, really. Being related to a supervillain and soon to be one myself, I may need to keep a low profile, but I won't stand for being so blatantly disregarded. Sergei, having an interest in geoscience is not a crime either. His German doesn't have any less of an accent, but because he doesn't have to whisper, it's actually easier to understand. Of course not, but you do know that he'll be giving the conference in German, don't you? And frankly, the translators the museum usually hires are terrible. It's not even close to being the same experience. I'm speaking with you, aren't I? My Deutsche is good enough. This is quite different from a scientific presentation. What do you really want? I'm just trying to have a conversation with the person sitting next to me. Why? Should it be about something else? No, of course not. 9. Of course not. Exchange a look of suspicion before he goes back to reading, not without hesitation. Seems like I'll have to keep an eye on him. Third call, please remain in silence for the duration of the conference. We'd like to remind you that photography is restricted to authorized press. The lights of the room begin to dim until they turn off completely, and the auditorium's only remaining illumination are the spotlights above the stage. A man in a suit appears from the left end of the stage, followed by Professor Schultz. He stops at the podium, and soon any hopes of conversation are drowned by the audience's applause. Please welcome Professor Hans Schultz, head of the Schultz-Holt Foundation. There's another round of applause, this time much louder. After a couple of seconds pass, Schultz holds his hand up and the whole room goes quiet. Slowly, the floor next to him begins to open, and everyone watches in awe as the case in which the diamond is kept raises from it. I'd seen pictures of it before, of course, but it doesn't compare to seeing it in person. Too bad they don't have an image for this. As you all know, the Engelauge is amongst the rarest gemstones in the world. Flawless both in its surface and its interior, it allows both heat and electricity to be conducted with minimal dispersion up to... I pressed a button on the side of my watch. I couldn't risk bringing too much equipment on my person, but I managed to fit both a communicator and a small laser into my watch. At my signal, the doors burst open and the henchmen appear, while the ones that had been posing as ushers hurried to lock the doors behind them. My uncle only ended up lending me about half a dozen of them, but since the people inside have no way to tell, they're more than enough. There are whispers of confusion at first, but the room goes completely quiet when Schultz slams his hand against the podium. What is the meaning of this? Security gets these people out of here! I stand up and I'm escorted to the stage by that one henchman whose name I should probably know by now. While we walk, he goes ahead and hands me the control of the bombs. It's mostly for show, since we only wired enough bombs to mess up some of the less important rooms slightly, while the rest are decoys set to release smoke. Of course, they don't know that. There has been a slight change of plans, Professor. As I take the podium, I put down a control in front of me and I signal the henchman to restrain Schultz. They both get off the stage and he leads the professor towards the side of the auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. If you cooperate and do exactly as you are told, no one will get hurt. When you look back to this moment in a few years, you realize that it was the most important day of your lives. Scientific achievements, political careers, everything you've done will pale in comparison to this instant. And that is because today you'll become part of history. You'll have the honor of witnessing the birth of one of the greatest supervillains known to man, Dr. Cyclops. As of right now, you'll also have the honor of being my hostages. Hopefully the government values your lives. I'm briefly interrupted by the sound of talking coming from amongst the seats. I decide to ignore it and continue. Enough to pay the... When it happens again, I stop speaking and begin to look over the crowd, searching for the source of the interruption. Most of the guests have either a look of fear or discomfort on their faces. Some of them even shake their heads when they notice me looking at them. What do I have henchmen for if they can't keep the people from talking at the same time as me? Finally, I notice that the henchman is out of place, standing at the end of a row rather than at his place next to Schultz. He seems to be arguing with someone. I step down from the stage to get a better look, and I recognize the other person as the man from the lobby. What are you doing? Sit down! I'm going to the bathroom unless you want me to get sick all over the floor. He stands up and gives me a few steps forward. Actually, it's more of an awkward stumbling. He looks really drunk. Yup, it's James Bond. Hey, I said you aren't going anywhere. The henchman grabs his arm to stop him. Suddenly, the man turns around and punches him square in the nose, knocking him out cold in the process. Stepping around the henchman's unconscious body, he puts a hand inside his jacket and takes out a gun. At first, I'm amused by the idea of getting shot by an overeager drunk, but he manages to point it right at me just fine. Agent Hunter, Global. You're all under arrest. Shit. People begin to turn to look at him, whispering to each other until the crowd's attention is divided between the two of us. Meanwhile, none of the henchmen move, unsure of what to do. The only security on site was supposed to be the museum's guards and some of the local police stations stationed outside. There was nothing to make us think that an agent of Global would be here, let alone armed. The henchmen could deal with him through sheer numbers alone, but I need them to keep control of the crowd. If everyone begins to panic, it's not going to be good for any of us. I decide to try and bluff, so I shrug and laugh it off. Nice try, but you wouldn't risk a shootout in a room full of civilians, or for me to blow this place sky high. I pick up the controller and put my index finger on the big red button on the middle of it. See this? I mean, I've put bombs all around the museum. One false move and I'll push it. With you still inside? No, I don't think so. As for your henchmen, my aim is pretty good, and something tells me none of them wants to be the one that gets their boss shot. Guess we'll have to see who's faster. Get him! The henchmen are getting ready to fire when I'm blinded. A flash of white light. Out of instinct, I drop the controller and raise my arm to cover my good eye, but the movement makes me lose my balance and I end up falling back. Grenade! Everybody get down! Throat hurts. Hold your fire. My vision is blurry, so much that I barely see the second flash of light when it goes off. I hear the people begin to scream, but the noise sounds so distant, as if I was in another room altogether. It's not much of a relief, but at least that means that they were flashing grenades rather than fragmentation ones. Flash grenades! It takes a couple of seconds for my eyesight to come back completely, and a couple more for me to regain enough strength to be able to stand up. I look around. Half of the henchmen are on the floor, covering their ears in pain, and the other half still looks too confused to do anything. Upon realizing that no one is blocking their way anymore, the people in seats begin to run towards the exits in panic, pushing each other and screaming. By the time the henchmen try to regain control of the situation, the whole room has descended into chaos. In front of me, Agent Hunter points his gun in my direction and begins to approach, or at least he's trying to. His hand is shaking so much that it's obvious that he's just as disoriented as I am. I frown. If it wasn't him, then who? He looks at me, then at the floor, then stops. I look down as well and realize why. It's the control. He hurls himself forward and grabs it. I take the opportunity to kick the gun out of his other hand, but he holds onto my leg and pulls me down with him. We both end up on the floor, trying to wrestle the control out of each other's hands. While Hunter may be stronger, right now I'm the one in better condition, so I manage to hold my own against him. We keep rolling around on the floor until I manage to flip him over and pin him down. Has someone ever told you that this is your best angle? Shut up and give it back. As we continue to struggle for control, I notice someone get on the stage out of the corner of my eye. I turn my head and see the blind man from the lobby walk up to the diamond's case and lift it up. It's a brief distraction, but it's enough to give Hunter the upper hand he needs to push me off him. When I fall back, the controller is sent flying into the air, and Hunter and me stare at it as it lands right on the detonator. Well, shit. Of course, nothing happens. It's a decoy, isn't it? Hunter shakes his head in disbelief, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. But instead of looking angry, he seems rather amused by the whole situation. Having decided that his immediate business with me is done, he runs past me and onto the stage to catch up with the other man. They begin fighting over the diamond right away, trying to keep the other from getting a proper hold on it. They're pretty evenly matched first, but the longer the fight lasts, the more Hunter struggles to keep up. Whoever the Russian is, it's clear that he's not just a random guest or some opportunistic thief. It will be an easy mission, they said. No one cares about that old rock anymore, they said. Why does the KGB even want with... What does the KGB even want with it? Don't you commies dislike everything that may be worth more than a ruble? Be quiet, that diamond is the property of the Soviet government. I've come to take it back. KGB and Global. I knew there was something odd about those two. Good thing that I'm not here for the diamond. Let them fight over it while we get away with the Schultz. I walk over to where the henchman is and nudge him awake with my foot. He stands up, holding the side of his head with a pained expression. He's bleeding from Hunter's punch and he has a split lip. He's pretty lucky that he didn't get trampled by people on their way out. Put yourself together. We need to get Schultz and get out of here before the agent notices. Can you help me get him to the vehicle? Yes. Go tell the others to get out and get everything ready. I'll hold Schultz back in the meantime. He nods and goes running to where the other henchmen are. They still look confused from the grenade, but they're all well enough shaped to pick up their guns and head to the exit. Speaking of Schultz, where is he? The professor didn't leave with the rest of the people. Instead, he's been watching both men fight over the diamond. He obviously cares more about it than for his own safety. He's even too distracted to notice us as I approach from behind. Professor, if you would be so kind to come with me. Schultz turns around, alarmed. I'm about to grab him when there's a loud noise right outside of the auditorium. I feel the floor move and I lose my step. The room quickly begins to fill with smoke and dust, and I cover my mouth and nose with my sleeve. What the hell? That sounded like a bomb. But how? Never mind, I'll figure that out later. Right now, Schultz is more important. The smoke gets thicker by the second, and it soon becomes impossible to distinguish anything more than a couple of meters away. I have just enough visibility to see two blurry figures through the smoke, each running towards the exit through different rows. One of them must be Schultz. The only people left here besides me and the henchmen were the professor and both agents, so I'm pretty sure They are still on the stage. There are a few grammatical errors in this game, but you can understand it. It's too dark, I can't see their faces. Boss, where are you? Over here. Between the two of us, it should be enough to incapacitate Schultz and carry him outside. Once there, the others will take care of the rest. I start to run towards... Green suit, fuck it. Wait. I like how it plays the music. Green suit. I run towards the man in the green suit and tackle him with all my strength. He's a lot more sturdy than I would have imagined, and I almost dislocate my shoulder from the impact alone. While I keep him on the floor, the henchman puts a hood over his head and ties his hands and feet. Even between the two of us, it takes a lot of effort to get him out of the building. He struggles so much that he actually kicks the henchman right in the nose at one point. God, again? What do they feed these people? We get him into the trunk of the vehicle and head back to the base. I hope I picked up, Sergei. Every once in a while we hear the professor. That's not the professor, isn't it? Kick the trunk from inside as if trying to get out. It makes what's already a tense trip even more tense. Finally, after a couple of hours, we get to the lair. Sphinx Lair, currently serving as Dr. Cyclops' base of operations, somewhere in Germany. A couple of henchmen help us get Schultz out of the trunk and into the lab. I had planned to simply sit him on a chair and put a guard at the door to keep an eye on him, but he gave us too much trouble on the way here for that. With how the day has gone so far, I don't want to risk him getting shot trying to escape. Do we still have that table with the straps? The one we used before we had the cell block? Yes. Bring it over and tie down Schultz. The less he can move, the better. I'm surprised they didn't do like a damaged face sprite. He nods. Just as he's about to leave, he touches his nose and he stops to gesture at the two other henchmen to go with him. They return a couple of minutes later carrying the table with them. That thing is probably older than I am, and proof that half of the things at the warehouse are there for purely nostalgic reasons. The henchmen put the table down in the middle of the lab and secure it to the floor. While two of them cut the ropes around Schultz's hands and feet and lift him onto the table, the other straps him down to it. Schultz thrashes and kicks. I think it's thrashes and kicks until the very last moment, shouting curses at us. At least I think that's what he's doing. The hood muffles a lot of it, so it just sounds like distant yelling. Well, despite all the setbacks, we did it. Congratulations, everyone. The henchmen nod and give me a half-hearted smile. Give me half-hearted smiles. God damn it, there's a few things I'm bothered that makes them look more relieved than happy. They probably thought I was going to blame them for what happened at the museum. Which, to be honest, I would have done if we had come back empty-handed. I still need to figure out how we missed 2 agents. Someone in intelligence is going to have to answer for that. But that's a matter of another time. Now, I get closer to the table, leaning over so that I'm right in front of the professor. At my signal, the henchman standing closest to Schultz grabs the hood covering his head and takes it off. You have given us a lot of trouble, Professor. Schultz? Yep, not him. Alright, let's leave it here, guys. So, thank you guys. Actually, this game was sponsored by Maneater Games, and I'm hoping you guys could tune in to this with me. So, we're gonna save it here, and we'll continue this next time. This is California Mackie signing out, and for now, enjoy Sergei.